Hare Krishna, Namaste, Chapter 18, which is entitled as Sannyasa Yoga. Sloka 49, Part 2. Asakta-buddhiḥ sarvatra, jitātmā vigata-spṛhaḥ, naiṣkarmya-siddhiṁ paramāṁ, sannyāsenādhigacchati. We have not got into the actual meaning of this sloka yet. We are in the introduction to this section where we learned that dhyana nishta means where one is able to fix their thought upon Atma without any distraction in full concentration for longer period. That dhyana nishta is obtained through jnana yoga, and jnana yoga is obtained through karma yoga, and that dhyana nishta gradually gives one atma darshana, atma sakshatkara, that is vision of the atma. This was the subject matter for the first 6 chapters. What we are going to discuss now is pretty much same, but it doesn't stop there at Atma Darshana. This Atma Darshana is what leads one to Bhakti. That is, the self-realization is a foundation for one to enter into Bhakti Yoga. And that is the difference from the previous chapter, the earlier initial chapters, and to this chapter. But there's a commonality between this, what we're going to see now, and the one we saw earlier. That is Atma Jnana. The knowledge of Atma is very important either to attain Atma Darshana or to attain Paramatma Darshana. And we should also know that it is only through Bhakti Yoga that one can attain Paramatma Darshana. For Bhakti Yoga, Atma Darshana, the vision of Atma, the self-realization, is Anga. We have already explained what is Anga and what is Angi. Since it is important to be aware of them, we will repeat again. Anga means accessory or preliminary to something to be obtained. Angi is that which is achieved through the Anga. Angi can also become an Anga for another Angi. So in this case, Atma Darshana is Anga and Bhakti Yoga is Angi. Atma Darshana is obtained only through Dhyana Nishta. Therefore, Dhyana Nishta is Anga, Atma Darshana is Angi. Dhyana Nishta is achieved through Jnana Yoga. Therefore, Jnana Yoga is Anga, Dhyana Nishta is Angi. Jnana Yoga is obtained when one's consciousness is purified, that is Chitta Shuddhi, through practice of Karma Yoga, which removes the obstacles in the form of previous karma. Therefore, Karma Yoga becomes Anga to Jnana Yoga, which is Angi. And Karma Yoga is practiced only when one has Atma Jnana. Therefore, Atma Jnana becomes Anga to Karma Yoga, which is Angi. The reverse order is Atma Jnana leads to Karma Yoga, leads to Chitta Shuddhi, leads to Jnana Yoga, leads to Dhyana Nishta. And that leads to Atma Darshana. What we are going to learn going forward is what is after that, after Atma Darshana. After Atma Darshana, through Dhyana Nishta, one has 2 paths, 2 choices. We will see what those 2 choices as well. But before we further go into that path, let's not forget where we started. The focus earlier was perform Karma Yoga, and that Karma Yoga will lead one to dhyana nishta. But what we are discussing now is a complete sequence where karma yoga leads to jnana yoga leads to dhyana nishta. So where is the connection from what we learned previously? Because in the second chapter the sequence was given, and in the third chapter Krishna changed, saying that you don't need to go through the sequence of karma yoga to jnana yoga to attain dhyana nishta. One can perform karma yoga and attain the same result of jnana yoga, which is dhyana nishta. Why? Because Krishna said jnana yoga is a difficult process, karma yoga is an easy process. When there is an easy process to obtain dhyana nishta, why do you want to take the difficult path, which is jnana yoga? Now the question is, how does karma yoga gives one dhyana nishta? We repeated this several times. One more time, dhyana nishta means having continual focus on one's atma alone without even a slight distraction. So the jnana yoga is where one practices keeping their mind and senses completely focused on the atma, the self. Say initially one can do this only for a couple of minutes, and after practicing for a couple of minutes, able to control their mind and senses for a couple of minutes, then they extend to 5 minutes, and when they master the 5 minutes, that duration increases to 10, and when they master the 10 minutes of duration, then it increases to 15 minutes, and the duration of concentration is increased gradually in jnana yoga. The stage where a jnana yogi whose mind and senses are completely fixed without any distraction and able to as and when wants to focus on the self, he is able to do it without any difficulties. That is said to be dhyana nishta. This stability was not fully present even in jnana yoga stage. The senses were still out of control, but by continuous abhyasa, practice, one is able to pull their mind and senses every time when it wanders and bring it towards Atma. This is what the concern that Arjuna brought up in the 6th chapter. Chanchalam hi manat Krishna pramati bhalavadritam tasyaham nigraham manye vayur ivasu dushkaram. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. And Krishna in response said, Asamshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. Arjuna, I do agree that it is difficult to control the mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. This is what the jnana yogi goes through. Continuously and constantly try to pull the distracted mind and senses to focus on the Atma. After able to do this for a longer period without distraction, one then reaches to dhyana nishta stage where the senses and mind no more wander. They are fully focused on the Atma alone. That is when one gets Atma Darshana, and at that point one becomes Atmarama. Arama means garden, beautiful garden. Atmarama means one who enjoys the Atma itself like a beautiful garden. The opposite of Atmarama is Indriyarama, where the person makes Indriyas, that is the senses, to be a garden for one's own enjoyment. In other words, the difference between Atma Rama and Indriya Rama is the person in the path of self-realization, he keeps Atma as his enjoyment, not the body, whereas Indriya Rama, his focus, his enjoyment is body and senses, not the Atma. One who is Indriya Rama cannot be a Jnana Yogi, and he will not be able to obtain the Dhyana Nishtha. Whereas a person who attained the Dhyana Nishtha stage, he gets a pleasure, whatever he was getting through the Indriyas. Now simply by becoming Atma Rama, he gets much better pleasure within, not without, meaning not outside. Those who are Indriya Rama, they look for happiness outside. Those who are Atma Rama, they look and derive happiness within. When one becomes Atma Rama, he is completely realized. He knows that Atma is Jnanamaya, Atma is Anandamaya, Atma is Sushma, Atma is Anu, Atma is Nityam. That is, Atma is full of knowledge, full of bliss. It is a subtle element, it is a minute element, it is eternal. At this stage, he realizes that this Atma is not Swatantra, meaning not independent. At that stage, he understands and comes to a realization that Atma is Paratantra, Atma is Sheshabhuta. Paratantra means is dependent, and Sheshabhuta means a servant of the Lord. When he understands that he is not independent, he is servant of the Lord, he develops love towards the Lord. And this love of Godhead happens only when one has that Atma Jnana, which sequentially leads one into love of Godhead. Now, going back to our question, how does Karma Yoga leads one directly to Dhyana Nishtha, which is the prerequisite to do Bhakti Yoga? We may easily get lost in this discussion if we don't remember where we started. So, for us, what is important is how to attain the Dhyana Nishtha through performing Karma Yoga. If that cannot be obtained, then Arjuna is waiting to quit his karmas and get into Jnana Yoga. Therefore, Krishna has a bigger task in his hand to make Arjuna understand that you don't need to go to forest to perform Jnana Yoga, Arjuna. You can continue what you are doing, but still attain the same result what you may attain by going to the forest to perform Jnana Yoga, which is Dhyana Nishtha. Let's see how. Through Jnana Yoga, one can obtain Dhyana Nishtha, which is what we are familiar with and which is what we have learned so far. Krishna is saying there is another path which can bypass Jnana Yoga and still obtain Dhyana Nishtha directly. That path is sticking on to one's Karma Yoga. How that is going to lead one to Dhyana Nishtha? Let's see. The basic requirement for Jnana Yoga is to control one's senses. Controlling of senses is something that we are not much familiar with, whereas Karma Yoga is quite familiar for us because the senses are in full-fledged engagement. So do Karma Yoga and obtain Dhyana Nishtha. Arjuna got confused. For one to attain Dhyana Nishtha, one needs to perform Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga means controlling of senses, and you are telling perform Karma Yoga where control of senses is not there. Then how can one obtain Dhyana Nishtha where there is no control of senses? Because control of senses is a key element in Jnana Yoga to obtain Dhyana Nishtha, whereas in Karma Yoga, control of senses is not the program. Then, how can one attain Dhyana Nishtha? Well, that happens automatically in Karma Yoga without putting an effort to control the senses. But for that gradual process, one needs to apply the principle of Tyaga. We are again going back to the starting of this chapter where Arjuna asked what is Tyaga and what is Sannyasa. Are they same or are they different? Krishna said they are one and the same, just that they are used in different contexts, interchangeably. Jnana Yogi is a stage where one has performed Tyaga, giving up their karmas, their activities, and that is obtained by the proper jnana of having the clear understanding that I am not the only doer. There are totally 5 are involved. This we learned in the same chapter, Sloka 14. Adhishthanam tatha karta karnam cha pratak vidam vividascha pratak cheshta daivam chaivatra panchamam. One's body, the individual self, the indriyas of different kinds, the various movements of the vital air, pranavayu, etc. And the 5th one is the Supreme Lord. That is, once jnana, knowledge is matured, that's when one is able to perform Tyaga. And that knowledge is, I am not the only doer, there are 5 in total. I am being triggered by the Lord. I can't do things on my own. When one comes to this knowledge, the matured knowledge, one will be able to perform Tyaga. And this is what done by a Jnana Yogi in the Jnana Yoga process. If this mood of Tyaga can be performed by the Karma Yogi, then obviously he will also attain the same result what the Jnana Yogi is going to attain. The question is, how can a Karma Yogi give up their activities like the Jnana Yogi to get that Jnana? It is simple answer because we have studied this quite a lot in the past of this chapter. When a Karma Yogi performs activities with Trivida Tyaga, then those activities which are done by the Karma Yogi is as good as activities not done by the Jnana Yogi. May sound confusing, but let's see. Jnana Yogi doesn't do activities, doesn't do any karmas. He gave up the activities, thinking that he is not the doer. These activities doesn't belong to him, and he is not interested in any of the results of his activity. Therefore, in totality, he gave up any kind of activities, any kind of karmas. Whereas Karma Yogi, performing Karma Yoga, performs his action with the same principle that I am not the doer, I am not the owner, I am not expecting anything in return by my activity. This is called Trivida Tyaga. Then he is doing the same thing what Jnana Yogi does. Only difference is Jnana Yogi doesn't get involved in activities, whereas Karma Yogi gets involved in activities but cultivate the same mood of Jnana Yogi. That is Trivida Tyaga. This Trivida Tyaga is key for the Jnana Yogi to get Dhyana Nishtha. Therefore, that same key is used over here by Karma Yogi to attain the Dhyana Nishtha. The difference is Jnana Yogi does not engage in activities and tries to control the senses and the mind, whereas Karma Yogi does activities and engages the senses and mind in the activities by having the knowledge of Trivida-tyaga. Therefore, Arjuna understands there are two paths to attain self-realization: Atma-darshana, Atma-sakshatkara. One path is where Karma Yoga, which leads to Jnana Yoga, and one attains Dhyana Nishta, which gives Atma-darshana. Whereas the other one is Karma Yoga by itself with Trivida-tyaga gives Dhyana Nishta, which then leads one to Atma-darshana. This subject is very important because many think that one cannot attain the self-realization by being engaged in activities that they are doing, the worldly activities. But Krishna is saying that you can attain self-realization by still being engaged in worldly activities. There is a very high purpose reason why Krishna is encouraging to Arjuna take up the path of Karma Yoga and not the Jnana Yoga. That we will see later. Another twist at this junction is when one attains the vision of the Atma, there are two paths, two choices for such person. Either they attain Atma Sakshatkara through the path of Jnana Yoga or through the path of Karma Yoga. After attaining the vision of Atma by choosing either one of this path, again there is another two paths, each one leading to a different goal. We will learn about that in our next session. Namaste. Hare Krishna.